Good morning, my shapey friends. This is Bins, ready for a new episode in the Shapez BEASTMAM series. I'm gonna skip the fancy intros today and we're gonna dive right in. This is the 39th video in the BEASTMAM series, and if you've been following along, you'll know that we ended things in Chapter 6b, Episode 2, and we're gonna continue in the Shenanigans chapter with the status displays. So by status displays, I mean this triplet right here. As you've perhaps observed over the course of the previous videos, the machine has 3 states it can be in. The blue screen is the searching screen. It will light up while the decoder is looking for a solution, and then it will flip over to the yellow screen, the building screen. Building means that a solution has been found for the shape, and the factory is in the stage of getting it produced. Finally, there's the green feeding state, when the shape is done and feeding into the hub. So today I wanted to walk you through how those status displays work and which lines trigger which behavior at which time. So the node buildings themselves come from a mod, more specifically the in-game nodes mod by Script. And perhaps it's a good idea to quickly look at how they work in isolation so that we can understand their behavior inside the BEASTMAM better. The principle is simple. You simply get a set of extra notepad-like buildings of varying sizes, and if you plop one of them down somewhere on the map, you get this pop-up where you have to enter 2 things. Firstly, the text you want the node building to read, and secondly, you can set the font size. Easy. Now, the interesting thing is that these buildings actually have a wiring pin, and that lets you do all kinds of fun stuff. Firstly, you can let the node building receive a 1 or 0 signal. This will toggle the text on the node building itself. It should be observed, however, that if the building doesn't receive a signal, it will default to simply showing the text, which means that its default value is actually a 1. And this tripped me up a few times. I was experimenting with setups that would show or hide the text in certain contexts, and I couldn't always get the text to hide despite cutting the feed of the input signal. And I was actually almost at the point of reporting a bug to Script when it finally clicked for me. When these node buildings get a null signal, then they will interpret that the same way as when you don't connect a wire in the first place. And while that actually holds true for any virtual unit in Shapez, for the node building specifically, it means that a null will actually not hide the text but show it. After all, that's their default value, right? So it took me a while to understand that if I wanted to hide the text on these displays, I had to make sure they got a 0 for an input. Simply cutting the signal so that the output is null will make the node buildings default to displaying the text. Alright? And now that we know that, we can start having some fun. Because if you put color values on the input wire, then the text on the node building itself will actually change to that color. And if you want the text displayed in black, you can either output a 1 to the node building, cut the signal, or use any shape value, which the node building will also interpret as a truthy value, therefore a 1. So if we construct a setup where we make sure that the incoming signal is either a color input or a 0, we can animate the node buildings. So let's get back to the hub area and look at the wiring. Now, I apologize for all the spaghetti, but weaving all of these wires through a confined space has proven to be a bit of a challenge. Anyway, I want to trigger the status displays in accordance to certain events that occur in the machine, right? So we need to find some wiring signals that we can use as sources to toggle those displays. And that's why I've got this little module here to the bottom left of the hub that will output my color values for me. I've got a blue value for the searching node block, a yellow one for the building node block, and a green one for the feeding node. If any of these wires doesn't get a value, I'll make sure that the null is transformed to a 0 instead. That will hide the text on the corresponding node block. And now, all I have to do is connect the triggers that constitute the conditions for each state. Let's have a look. On the blue wire, I have the actual input shape source. The orange wire carries the smelt type code shape, which is a reliable source to tell the machine whether the decoder has found a solution or not. And finally, we've got this purple wire. The purple wire is connected to this storage unit right here, which, as you might recall, is in charge of blocking the flow of output shapes until a full belt can be provided. When the storage has contents, then its right pin will output the shape or color value of that which is in the storage. And that is all we need. I want the blue searching node to be triggered if the decoder is looking for a solution but hasn't found one yet. This means that the blue wire should carry a value, meaning that there is an input to begin with. The orange signal, however, may not carry a value. It may not carry a smelt type code shape on that signal yet, meaning that the machine hasn't found a solution. And finally, the purple wire may not carry a truthy value either. After all, when the machine is searching for a solution, the correct shape can't be in the storage yet, right? Per definition. However, there is a small trap. When the machine switches over from one shape to the next, then initially, there will still be some leftover shapes in the storage, and those will generate a 1 on the purple wire. And I don't want that. I want that if the machine switches over to a new shape, I want the status display to also switch to the searching one immediately, and not only after the storage is cleared, all right? And this is why you can see that there is an additional transistor on the purple wire, with the orange wire as a side input. This will achieve that when the signal changes, the source input signal, when it changes, and consequentially the orange wire's signal is cut, it will drag the purple wire down with it, so to speak. So only if the orange wire carries a truthy signal, so can the purple one. All right? So, if firstly, we have a shape on the input wire, secondly, there is no smelt type code shape on the orange wire, and therefore no truthy output on the purple one either, then we will emit a blue value, and that one is connected to the node block that reads searching. Now for the yellow building text, I want that to trigger when the blue wire carries a shape, meaning that there's an input shape, an input value, the orange wire also carries a value, and the purple wire doesn't. If those three conditions are met, then the yellow signal will be triggered. And finally, the green value should be emitted only when all three wires carry truthy values, meaning that A, there is an input signal coming from the hub, B, the decoder has found a solution, and C, there is a shape deposit in the storage. And then finally, the same wires, the very same wires that connect to the node buildings are also connected to a display, so that when any node building shows its text, simultaneously the display in front will light up in the same color. All right? And I guess that's already that for today. I hope you had fun, and as always, keep butchering that subscribe button, leave a thumbs up, leave a like, that's always greatly appreciated. I've been Binz, and I will see you next time. Take care. Cheerio.